recorded. There we go. We're over for the recording. We have over 40 guests on the call so far, and we do have some people that are going to be joining us here momentarily. Welcome to the people from the United Emirates, from Russia, from Latvia, from San Diego. Catherine, good to see you on the call. Delhi from Calgary. Pat from Edmonton. We have individuals joining us today from South Africa, Hong Kong, and India. Welcome to BNI GTA Plus, the 4 C's in VCP. I'm Cindy Mount. I am the Executive Director with BNI GTA Plus, and we are the hosts of your call this morning. We are going to be bringing to you, I'm Cindy Mount, your Executive Director, BNI GTA Plus, and today we have with us Dr. Oudi. This is a great picture of Dr. Oudi and his family. I love this one. Dr. Oudi and I were collaborating on ideas on how to share a speaker platform for each other's members. And when he told me that Graham Weilmiller, BNI CEO, had heard him present the 4 C's of VCP and that he'd been invited to speak at the 2019 Global Conference, I told him that I'm not waiting that long until then, and I really wanted my members in the region to hear all about this. And besides, most of us won't be in Poland for 2019 for the convention. So Dr. Oudi agreed to share it with us today, so I thank you so much for that. We're pretty lucky because besides the few members in the United Arab Emirates and Qatar, and of course Graham, we are the first people to hear this full presentation. A little bit about Dr. Oudi. There's a website up above. You can connect and see everything that he's doing. He's the founder and the Chief Inspirational Officer of Inspired Results, a global performance training and coaching company based out of the United Arab Emirates. And they have a rather bold tagline. When you get inspired, we get results no matter your industry. There's a sampling of the type of the companies that he's worked with. In fact, he is a former Torontonian, and I really like the information on his website about Speakology, Thinkology, and Eatology. Today we're going to hear the 4 C's, which represent to not only BNI members, but to their businesses. We're going to hear about this. He talks about this worldwide and across many, many sectors and different industries. I'm going to just turn this over to him, and he can take it away from here. Just going down. All right, Dr. Oudi, you are unmuted, and I'm going to pass the screen over to you. Are you ready for this?
I am ready. Thank you so much, Cindy.
You are ready.
Welcome everybody all around the world.
Oh, where did you look? There you go. All you have to do is accept, and the screen is yours.
Okay, done.
I said I will be keeping an eye on the chat line. If you have something that you want to put into the box, I will certainly take note of those items, and we can address them when he's all done.
All right, thanks again, Cindy. I'm sure you'd all agree that trust is a must when it comes to business and when it comes to the referral generating process. And you really shouldn't expect referrals, I'm sure you'd agree with that, unless trust has been established. This will be the basis of this presentation. However, there's a slight twist. The question really is, if you've established trust, does that mean that you can expect referrals automatically? But before getting into the details, I do want to just thank you so much, Cindy, for making this possible and for jumping all over this. I want to thank you all, members around the world. And also, there's a special thanks to Colin Horner. I don't know if you guys have heard of the name, but he's quite famous in the BNI world. He's shared a few podcasts with Dr. Ivan, and he has a company that basically helps us with visual thinking. So anything that you see that's hand drawn on the slides is thanks to Colin. So what you're going to walk out of here with today is the following. Number one, I hope that this presentation is going to help you master the referral process. Number two, I hope it helps you deepen your connections with fellow members. And number three, at the very least, I hope this is going to help you see that there's a process that exists now with the 4 C's that will allow you to know exactly where you stand in the eyes of your fellow members. So this is the question. If you've reached the credibility threshold, the trust point, does that mean that you can expect referrals automatically? If you can please just take a moment and put your answer into the chat box. If you believe that yes, when you hit the trust point, referrals happen automatically, just type in yes. And if you believe that no, just because you've reached the credibility threshold does not mean that you will get referrals automatically. So if you can please type them into the chat box, and I can see, wow, pretty quick. So Cindy is going to be playing center field. If any of you guys are baseball players, and she'll be, just hopefully collecting some of the data that we'll share back with you guys later in terms of percentages of people. To give you some more time, I just want to explain, just share my BNI story and the one-liner that basically changed my life. So I was 27 years old, just graduated from chiropractic college from Dallas, Texas, moved back to Mississauga, which is just outside of Toronto, Canada, opened my clinic. My father walks in, he says, "Son, I really like what you've done with the place, but it's missing one thing." And I'm like, "What's that, Dad?" And he's like, "Patience. This place is empty." And I'm like, "Dad, you got to give me some time for people to find out about me and come into the clinic." And he leaned over, looked me in the eyes and said, "Son, that's your first mistake." I'm like, "What do you mean, Dad?" He says, "Son, you don't wait for people to find out about you. You go out there and network." And I have never even heard the word network before that. And even if I did in passing, I didn't really know what it meant. So I'm like, "Dad, what do you suggest?" He looked out the window. He said, "See, there's an old age home across the street. Why don't you go do a talk there?" I'm like, "Talk about what?" He says, "Talk about chiropractic. They have spines. They're people too." And so that's when my speaking career was launched. But it was actually a patient of mine, his name was Kim, who came in and changed my life with this one-liner. He said to me, "Oudi, you know what you need to fill this place? You need BNI." I had no idea what it was, of course. And he invited me. That night I went to bed with all intentions of waking up and visiting a BNI chapter in my community. But when I woke up at 5:30 in the morning, it was pitch black and freezing cold outside. And I was in my warm, cozy bed. I thought, screw this. And then a quote came into my mind from a staff doctor in Texas who it's a Jim Rohn quote. And as you guys know, Anthony Robbins studied under Jim Rohn. He promoted Jim Rohn for many years, Jim Rohn. And the quote was, "Successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do." Successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. And I thought, this is what they're talking about. And so I got out of bed, went to BNI, and it absolutely changed my life. Kim had a social at his house. And I had to ask him because this place was just immaculate. It was massive, a beautiful home. And I said, "Kim, why do you go to BNI? Isn't it for struggling business people, new business people like myself?" He said, "No, Oudi, BNI is not a place to get business. It's a unique place to do business." And he shared, of course, it's the giver's gain line, but just he spun it in a different way that really registered with me. He said, "Oudi, you put people before profits and relationship before revenue, and you won't have to worry about profits ever again." And that's what I did. And let me tell you what happened, guys. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but Dr. Ivan Meisner shared this on his Facebook page. If you want to get the full story, I'm giving you kind of the fast forward version. But basically, I went from a struggling doctor who was stressed out about paying the bills, who couldn't savor the moment of taking care of people, which is what I absolutely love doing, and educating people, which is what I love doing, because I was so stressed about my bills and how I'm going to keep the business afloat. And BNI filled the place. And I stopped worrying about advertisement. A year later, I was, it was a full practice, and I was loving life again. So this is the one-liner: put people before profits and relationships before revenue. So if you guys can do me a favor, if you think I'm talking too fast, please write the word "fast" in the chat box. Otherwise, I'll just maintain the same pace. All right, thanks. So as you guys know, the key to business really is about who you know, not what you know. And in fact, if you talk to Dr. Ivan, he'll say it's how well you know who you know that really counts. But you'll be seeing today in the 4 C's, it's not just about who you know. It's not just about how well you know them in terms of credibility. There's some other factors at play as well. Now, this first C is going to come way too easy to you. And you've seen this far too often. In Member Success Program, we talk about the fact that referrals really kick in terms of significant numbers when you've reached the credibility threshold. That's when you can expect tier 2 plus referrals. That's when you can expect predictable, consistent referrals once people have trusted you. My issue is that there might be a little bit more to it. We know that referrals take time because trust takes time. We know that it's safe to say that if there's no trust, there's no referrals. But does that automatically mean that if you reach the credibility threshold, if you reach the trust point, that automatically you're going to start getting referrals with consistency? So Cindy, I don't know how many people said yes or no to the question of automatic referrals.
It was 100% said no.
Really?
Everyone who responded said no, it's not automatic.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. Thanks for the answers. I completely agree with you. Now, we will get some referrals when trust has been established, but not with any significance and not with any predictability and consistency. Because the truth is, just because I know you, like you, and trust you does not necessarily mean I will refer to you. And here's why. Because I trust you, Cindy. And, you know, I like you and I know you, but I'm not really sure if you're good at your job. I know you are. I know the neurosurgeon because he plays soccer with my kids. His kids play soccer with my kids. And I trust him with my car keys. I trust him with my wallet. I trust him with my children. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I am sure that I can trust he's good at his job. The lawyer from my hometown is a great example. I know him, but I know nothing about him as a professional. So what we're saying is there's another C to consider here, and it's competence. That just because I trust you doesn't necessarily mean I know that you're good at your job. So we also need to consider that members want to know that we're competent. And we'll talk about competence a little bit more, but let me just ask you this first. What do you think should come first? Trust or competence? Trusting that you're good at your job or trusting you as a person? If you could please just put that into the chat box as quickly as you can. What should come first when you're establishing a relationship with someone in the business world? Trust or competence? I can't see anything happening in the chat box. Cindy, can you?
There's most are coming in as trust. We have one competence, trust, and more trust.
All right.
Trust comes first. Empathy, interesting, and trust and a second competence. Trust with competence. There's an interesting one as well.
That's a hybrid version. Hybrid answer. All right. Well, let's look at what Harvard has to say about this. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right. So Amy Cuddy and her team of psychologists have been studying first impressions for over, I think, 15 years now. And in her book, Presence, she says that people size you up in seconds. But what are they actually looking for? What are they evaluating? This is the key. They're asking 2 questions when they meet you. The first is, can I trust a person? And can I respect a person? The psychologists call these dimensions warmth and competence respectively. So warmth for trust and competence for respect. Of course, as a BNI member, of course, as a business professional in the business world, we want to have both. However, we need to look at what's more important. And it's an important question to ask because it dictates what you put first. It dictates what you ask first. It dictates what you're looking for first, right? And so the answer is credibility. It's really, really powerful. I love this concept because this is how people are evaluating you, whether you're conscious of it or not. And it may seem counterintuitive, especially for those who guessed competence, Because we as business people think that, hey, you know what? I need to win your trust. Excuse me. I need to prove that I can handle your business, which is really proving that you can trust me as a business person. It's proving that you can trust that I'm the right person for the job. But if you look at this from an evolutionary perspective, if you go back to the caveman days, it's so important and crucial to survival for us to know if we can give our trust to a person. I call this kill versus skill. I mean, imagine you're sitting in your cave, you're with your family, and some stranger walks by your caveman door. You're not concerned with how quickly they can climb coconut trees and get food for you, or how skilled they are as hunters. What you're looking for, what you're thinking about is, can I trust this person? Can I trust this human being? Is the warmth there or not? And the truth of the matter is, competence is pretty much irrelevant unless credibility has been established. Here's what happens. Most business professionals focus on their smarts. They want to prove that they're smart enough, that they're competent enough to handle your business, to handle your money. And during networking, during speaking engagements, and during one-to-one meetings, what usually happens is we put our smarts first. And my question to you is, what are you doing when you're in the open networking time, when you're out networking at BNI or non-BNI functions? What are you doing from the stage when you're speaking? What are you doing when you're holding a one-to-one meeting? What are you putting first, especially at a first-time meeting with somebody? Are you showing how competent you are, or are you helping establish your own credibility in terms of trust? So here's what I'm going to quote Cuddy in her book Presence. She says that MBA interns are often so concerned about coming across as smart and competent that it can lead them to skip social events, not ask for help, and generally come across as being unapproachable. These overachievers are in for a rude awakening when they don't get the job offer because nobody got a chance to really know them, like them, and trust them as people. I threw in like them there from a kind of BNI perspective. But let's look at what Teddy Roosevelt says, former US president. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And if someone doesn't trust you, you being competent is really not going to go very far. I mean, your competence is not going to matter much. So here's the bottom line. To gain more referrals and impact your bottom line, you need to establish credibility and competence, but in that order. So let me take a step back and just say, look, in BNI, let's assume that when we say trust, when we reach that credibility or trust threshold, that it implies that I trust you as a person and I trust you're good at your job. Let's give that to BNI. Let's assume that that's what is meant when we say trust. After all, number one, there's a vetting process in BNI. So the membership committee is going to basically be looking at somebody's competence before they, approve them as members. And let's look at what Stephen Covey says. Tough to disagree with Stephen Covey on pretty much anything. He believes that trust is 50% competence. In fact, in his quote on trust, he says trust is equal parts character and competence. You can look at any leadership failure and it always comes down to one or the other. I won't go into what he means by competence and character in this presentation, but he does recognize that trust is competence is assumed to be part of trust. In fact, a big part, 50%. So there you have it. To secure consistent, high quality, qualified referrals, we basically need credibility and competence. In fact, there was a survey, a BNI survey that was done to thousands of people. It's on BNI University. I can try to access that and get that to you if you're interested. If you want to just put that in the chat box. But it basically showed that what's more important than having used someone's product or services before you actually refer to them are two things: your perceived level of their competence, and of course your perceived level of their credibility. So that's enough. You don't have to actually use someone's product or services. They don't have to use your product or services before they can refer to you with confidence. So guys, look, of course the talk is called the 4 C's. We've covered 2. I'm wondering if I brought 2 C's too many, because you pretty much have everything you need just with these 2 C's. But actually, guys, there's more to it, because think about it this way. I know you, I trust you, so credibility's there, but that's not enough. I need to know your level of competence. But even if I know that you are credible, and even if I know you're good at your job, that may not be enough for you to be sure that you're going to get consistent, high quality, qualified referrals. So before I go into the 3rd C, let's do a chat box check-in. Cindy, perhaps you can, if there's any questions in the chat box, we can address them, or if you guys want to ask a question quickly, whoever types first will get it answered first.
No questions so far.
Okie doke. So how about you guys guess what the 3rd C is? You can put it in the chat box.
Oh, come on. I know there are a lot of people on the call. Give us a guess.
And remember, okay, confidence, confidence.
Yeah, are you seeing them now too? Character, confidence, yeah.
I have to scroll down.
Question, there is a question that came in. How do you determine a person's credibility?
Whoa. Well, that's amazing. I think I'm going to leave that answer to the end, close to the end, because I'm going to be providing you with something where you can be sure how you're being perceived by others. So I'll address that later, and I think it'll be more timely as well.
All right, I wrote that one down just so we don't lose it. You say confidence, character is the C. More clarity of communication. Communication, consistency. And again, character, consistency, the other C. Consistency. Yeah, that one's coming up. Clarity and consistency are coming up.
Okay. You know what I love about the fact that all the answers have one thing in common, and that is they all start with C. Because sometimes you ask a question, people come back with different letters.
They come back with not a C, even though you said, what could the 3rd C be? Great. No, they've all come back with a C. We've got a good audience this morning.
Amazing crowd. Well done. All right, so let's move on. I'll tell you right now that some of you have the answer. And let me just click here. So credibility and competence, and the 3rd C is coming. But let me just tell you first that it's a very rare C, in my opinion. I'm not sure if you guys would agree. It's rare in B&I. It's rare in the business world, because you may have experienced this before. You meet someone, a member, they're credible, they're competent, yet you don't fully understand what they do. You don't fully understand how to help them because they're not clear. Well done, guys. Those of you who guessed clarity. It is about communication. It's about being crystal clear, because I can know you, like you, and trust you. Credibility's there. You're competent, but I'm not clear what exactly you do. You may have seen some members when they stand up and speak, your eyebrows start kind of dancing around, thinking like, I'm not understanding this person. You see people roll their eyes when the person's talking. I have been that person. I will admit that in my first year in B&I, I used to stand up and say, hi guys, I'm a chiropractor. We treat vertebral subluxation complex, which means we treat your histopathology, myopathology, neuropathology, and members would say to me, especially the mature ones, Oudi, no one knows what the hell you're saying. We can't help you if we don't understand you. So I trust you. I trust you're good at your job, but I just don't get it. I don't really get what you do. I had a great conversation. So if I don't understand you, I can't help you. Of course, you don't understand me, you can't help me. I had a fantastic conversation with Tim Roberts, the national director. We spoke for about 30 minutes at the global convention in Thailand. And we're talking about this 3rd C, clarity. I presented the 4 C's to him. And we're talking about, does it matter really what you do? Because we stand up. In fact, at a B&I meeting this morning, there was someone who did the 10-minute presentation, and they were explaining the process of what they do. And they went around a wheel, basically explaining when they first meet a client what happens. And the question is, does it really matter? And when we say clarity, Tim and I agree that, yeah, it may be important to understand what you do, but we don't want to know the intricacies, the minutia, the nuances, that there's no way we can keep that all in our head with a chapter of even 20. It's hard to keep 19 other professions in your head when it's not what you do. So what really it comes down to is being clear about what members need to know to open doors for you. They need to know what to say so they can open doors for you, not necessarily what you do. There needs to be some level of understanding what you do, but the focus in your 60 seconds, in your feature presentations, in your one-to-ones is really teaching your sales team, as we call it in BNI, teaching your sales team what to say when they see opportunity for you. So here's some assumptions that we make. We assume that a credible person is competent. That's not necessarily true. We also can't assume that a competent person has clarity. In fact, you may notice that sometimes the more competent people are very unclear. Like the more competent they are, the less clear they are. I can think of many professors that come to mind. I don't know if any of professionals in your circles come to your mind right now, but this is the question that you want to ask yourself. Am I being clear? During my networking, am I being clear? During my presentations, weekly and feature, am I being crystal clear? I mean, there's people in terms of clarity that have an ask. They've taken the time to have an ask, and you can't even hear the ask, which that should be the clearest part of the presentation. I mean, you need to consider taking a nice deep breath and then projecting your ask. So we're sure that you're sure that everyone hears you. The next question is, how clear are you during your one-to-one presentations? Are you going into too much detail over what you do, or are you just highlighting the key points and the key things for members to remember so they can open doors for you? So here's clarity. So if you can establish credibility, competence, and clarity and meet this threshold, this is when you can move into the phase of profitability with your fellow members. So here we go. The C so far: credibility, competence, clarity, and the fourth C is, any guesses?
Consistency, consistency.
This is a beautiful C.
They're coming in as consistency. Character comes up again. Character, communications, commitment.
Yeah. Beautiful. These are all amazing C's, and I've considered many of these. And in fact, the 4 C's may grow to more C's. This particular C we've called connectiveness. And it's a recently coined term that's used to describe the quality and quantity of a person's connections to others. Connectiveness. So let's look at what this means. So think about it. Do you want to associate with well-connected people? I'm sure you have no allergy to that. I'm sure you have nothing against that. And the reason is because well-connected people can connect you to other people. They may know the people that in the Arab world, we call this wasta, which means, not to be confused with Rasta, as in the Jamaican Rastafarianism, but wasta with a W basically means that in order to get to this key person in this company, you need another person to get you there. He's the wasta that will get you there, the connector, if you will. It's usually taken in a negative, kind of a negative connotation in the Arab world, that, to beat the line, for example, you need a wasta. But I think it can be used in a positive sense in terms of connecting with people who can connect you to others. There's no doubt about it that, they say behind every successful man stands a woman. True. And maybe the reverse is true, that behind every successful woman stands a man. But one thing is for sure, that in front of every door of opportunity stands another human being. So consciously and or subconsciously, I believe you are observing and being observed for perceived level of connectivity. What is this person's level of connectivity? This new member who just joined. We're asking that, and people are asking that about us. I met a gal who was very well connected to the royal family here in the GCC. And I spoke to her about in BNI, we have this concept of knowing someone, liking someone, and trusting someone. And we have to establish credibility before we can expect referrals to happen. And she said, and when I explained the 4 C's to her, she said, Oudi, I think this is the most important C of all, because if I perceive someone to be well connected, that influences my ambition to want to get to know them, to want to get to like them, and to give them the opportunity to showcase their credibility. So the question is, connectivity is going to help you connect to other members. If members see you as well connected, they're going to want to rub shoulders with you. When visitors come and see you well connected, they're going to want to rub shoulders with you. When people perceive you as being well connected, they are more connected to your message. And in general, people want to network with well connected people. So let's do a quick review, guys. Credibility says, do they trust me? Competence says, do they trust I'm good at my job? Clarity says, do they understand how to sell me? And only in B&I can I say it that way. Do they know how to sell me? And connectivity says, do they want to rub shoulders with me? So I would love to open it up for questions before I help you guys take this to the next level. So who has the first question?
Right now, there isn't a question there, but a great comment by Amrit Kumar. In BNI, the membership committee does due diligence about the prospective member, but it hardly tells us about his credibility. And that's so true.
That is so true. And in an ideal world, the membership committee would be able to, look at these four factors, these 4 C's, and basically base their approval or rejection on them.
If there's anyone that would like to ask a question, just type your name in the chat box and I will unmute you. Oh, I have another comment from Jana. What kind of activities do you do to build a stronger connection with others? And where do you find people worthy of connecting with? I'm going to go up and unmute Jana, and she can clarify if we need to. Just give me a second, Jana. Whoops, there we go. Jana, did you want to jump in? You're unmuted. It doesn't look like she has a microphone active. All right, there's the question. What kind of activities do you do to build a stronger connection with others? And where do you find people worthy of connecting with? Besides BNI, of course.
Yeah, that is a very, very powerful question. And I think what I'm going to be saying as a next step, right, would be at the end of this presentation, maybe we can do another one on how to build each one of the C's, because there won't be time for me to go into all the C's and how you can build them. I will give you one way at the very end where you can build your credibility very quickly. Yeah, thank you, Desmond. What I do want to say though is, for example, if you go to professional associations, like if you go to the Accountants Association, if you go to various professional groups and organizations, that is the best way to rub shoulders with people who are well connected. The other way would be to go to charity functions, because usually people at charity functions are going to be well connected people, or they'll be well connected people there, not necessarily people running the show. But yeah, so it would just be a matter of figuring out what kind of people do you want to rub shoulders with, and then finding either professional organizations or professional associations that you can connect with. It's a really good question, and I think what I'm going to be doing from now until the next presentation is packaging all this for you so that I can answer these questions more succinctly. I do have to put a little more thought into it, though, as you guys can see from my answer.
I have a comment and another question. Martz has said, we require our potential members to submit their top 40 business contact list before they join. So that's the connectivity that you were referring to. And the other question that we had earlier on was, how do you determine credibility?
Okay, this is it. You guys are one step ahead of me. We're going to be addressing this very point right now.
Oh, you were so good. Thank you.
You guys are one step ahead. So here, what we're going to talk about next is what you can do at a chapter level to raise the consciousness surrounding the 4 C's. And I just want to mention that this is right now a theory, right? And so with your help and with rolling out pilots in various areas around the world, we can come back with more precision when it comes to these 4 C's. But I want to ask you this. Imagine you knew exactly how others perceived you. Imagine knowing exactly where you're weak and where you're strong when it comes to these 4 C's. For example, if you had a low clarity score, then you would know what to work on, your communication. If you had high credibility, you would actually know what to stop working on. which is to stop trying to prove yourself because people already trust you. So would you guys like to know how you can get a scorecard from other members and know where you stand when it comes to the 4 C's? I hope the answer is yes. Here is a dummy one I created, but this is exactly what we rolled out in Abu Dhabi here. Here's the members' names on the left, okay? And let's look at Adam Horton, for example. He scored 9,939, credibility, competence, clarity, and connectivity. So you can see where he needs to work on, right? People trust him. They trust he's good at his job. They perceive him as being well connected, but they don't know what the hell he's doing. They don't know what to do to open doors for him. So he needs to work on his clarity. For Eileen, her credibility is 2, her competence is 2, her clarity is 3, and her connectivity is 1. Why do you think that would be? If you guessed that she's a new member, you're absolutely right. So people don't really know her. There may have been one member that rated her as a 9 or a 10 because that's probably the member that sponsored her. But everyone else doesn't even know her. So you can't expect credibility, competence, and the other scores to be high. Clarity, I put the highest because maybe as a visitor she spoke one time and kind of people knew what she was all about. Let's look at Barbara Blue Jay. She scores 9,993. Highly credible, highly competent, really clear communicator in terms of what we need to do to sell her as members, but perceived connectivity is low, which means she's probably not bringing a lot of visitors. She's probably not, referring with any high level or high consistency. So this is the 4 C's assessment. And like I said, it's a theory. We've rolled it out in Abu Dhabi. Dubai and Qatar are very serious, and the executive director, national director have heard about it. There's some areas in the US that we've had some talk. Cindy, thank you so much for jumping all over this. And I really hope it adds value to your members. Just so you guys know, Cindy did not hesitate. She's like, I'm not waiting until 2019. I want to get this to my members. So that's so commendable. So if you guys are interested in how to roll it out in terms of the steps, here's what I would do first. Number 1, get the buy-in from the leadership team. Determine the when. Maybe it's when you change new leadership, in April will be the next leadership team change. You want to determine the length in terms of how much time you want to allocate for this. It takes about, I've estimated 10 minutes to do this for 20 people, chapter 20. You want to also determine who's going to analyze the data. Is it going to be the LT, the DC, the ED? We did it at a regional level. And then you want to provide each member with a score for each C. You don't want to give the member like a score of 34, for example, if they scored 9 across the board. You want to actually, you want to give them a score for each C. The total doesn't really matter much. Unless you're scoring 10 or 0, it's not going to matter. You need to know which is the weakest C so you know what to work on. Of course, which are the strong C's that you don't have to. Here's some of the challenges. Now, there was a question about how do you know, how do you judge someone's level of credibility? This, I've spoken to someone who's very, very well respected when it comes to statistics. He works at a hospital. And the question was, is my 7, let's say 7 out of 10 in terms of clarity, the same as Cindy's 7 out of 10 when it comes to you? That's the real question. So really, to get this right, what you need to do, and I've already started doing this. In fact, I've done it for all 4 C's, but I'm just getting some information from people I respect in terms of accuracy and validity. The question is, okay, so let's say for credibility, we have 11 possible scores, right? We have a 0, and then we have 1 to 10. So what is a 10 in credibility? It would be something like, I trust this person with my children or with my most valuable possessions. A 9 would be, I trust this person with my wallet. 8 with my car keys. 7 with a few $100s, and that kind of thing. 2 is I have serious reservations about this person. 1 is I don't trust this person, or I trust them very, very, very little. And 0 is my trust has been broken. So that's what we kind of have to determine beforehand. But I still think, even without doing that, because then we run into timing problems in terms of like how can we get this done in a reasonable time, especially with, for example, the largest chapter in the world in Surat, India, with 144 members. That's going to take a while. So I think if you come back with a score of 7 to 10 on credibility, it's pretty consistent. Even though my 7 may be your 8, or your 9 may be my 7. So you know what I mean? So I think ballpark, you're still going to know that kind of where you stand in the eyes of members. And as we roll this out, we'll hopefully have some more details that we can put into the process to make it more accurate. The other thing you want to determine is not only duration, but frequency. Do you want to do this every quarter? Do you want to do it biannually, twice a year, monthly? Just you got to kind of figure out, depending on chapter size and depending on the results you're getting, how often you want to do it. At the very most, what we're hoping is that this is going to be an indicator for you of your referrals. Thank you for closed business, and of course these key KPIs that we have in BNI. But it also not only should predict it, but you should be able to move the needle in these areas. Like say, you know what? As soon as I worked on my credibility and my connectivity, or my clarity, my numbers started changing. My performance started changing. At the very least, it's going to tell you where you stand in the eyes of your members. So a quick review before we're through. Credibility and competence are so important, but credibility comes first. Clarity makes it easier for others to help you, and maybe the reason why you're not getting the referrals that you're looking for. People want to help you. I think genuinely people want to help you. People want to help you more so in BNI than elsewhere, probably because we bought into the giver's gain concept. So people want to help you, and just because you're not getting referrals doesn't mean they don't want to. It may actually have something to do with you and how clear you're communicating. And connectivity is on the radar. People are looking at this. They're judging you on it, whether you like it or not. Like people judge you on the way you speak, whether we like it or not. It's just a fact of life, and it's human nature. Make sure you get the buy-in before rolling it out into chapters, of course, if you're on the leadership team. And remember that you not only want to get your score, you want to get your score for each particular C, and then focus on the weakest one if there is one. Should we open it up for last minute questions before I go into the close, Cindy? Is there anything in the chat box?
There's not. Wait a second. There was one. Is there a questionnaire for each of the 4 C's? A lot of interest expressed in, can we get this system, have this system rolled out, or can we get more written information? Again, is there a questionnaire available? That's the most common. Is there a questionnaire available for members to read and for them to rate you?
Yes. So basically, the questionnaire is it's not really a questionnaire. Just basically, it's a one-pager. I'll send it to you guys if you're interested. Those who are interested. And basically, what it looks like is this, but above or underneath the 4 C's assessment, it basically says that credibility. You please rate your fellow member on these following points. It'll help you guys achieve this, and go ahead and rate them 0 to 10. And then they're all folded and they're turned into the president, who then pass it on to me. But yeah, definitely happy to help you guys roll this out, and I'd love to see if this helps you guys increase your return on investment in BNI, and which is going to help with retention and going to help with many of the issues we have with BNI around the world. So I really hope. First of all, I'm very grateful that people have shown interest in this, because as a chiropractor, my first year of practice, I had the credibility, but I didn't have the perceived competence because I was so young. And most of the members in my chapter were older. So I was like, how good is this guy really? He just graduated kind of thing. And so once I started getting some results with some of the members, my level of competence, the score went up. And I wish I could have my finger on the pulse and would have been nice to gauge it. And then clarity, of course, I was speaking just in a jargon that people didn't understand. And connectivity was probably zilcho because I didn't really understand how to increase my score. But let me move on. Cindy, we have, according to we have about 10 minutes. Is that correct?
That's right. And while you're doing that, I've put in the chat box, if they want this information, the rollout or the questionnaire, and I put an email address in there, put my email address, and just put in the subject line, process please, and I'll gather all of that. Since I can't really kind of scoop everything out of Connect right now, I will gather that up, and I'll make sure that you get everything. There is another question while you're going towards the end. What are the negatives, if any, when implemented? I personally can't see any downside to it, because not only is this applicable within your BNI world or your BNI chapter? But think about how these 4 C's apply to all of the business people that you know, especially the clarity. If you're not clear when you're doing your presenting outside of BNI, how will they even know they want what you have? So I think everything you talked about is directly applicable to business, whether you're in BNI or even when you're not in BNI. But what are the negatives, if any, when
Yeah,
implemented?
sure. So some of the negatives are it's just a lot of times members just don't want to do another thing. You know, they don't want to sit there, and so unless you get them to understand the why, they're not going to be enthusiastic about doing it. That's number one. Number two, there's going to be some work that needs to be done in terms of data collection and in terms of, you know, analyzing the scores and making sure you're accurate. So there is some work to be done. That would be the biggest negative at this point. And especially, like I said, when you get really big chapters like 144, you're gonna have to look at, you know, 144 sheets of paper, and there's gonna be some work that needs to be done. In the future, maybe there could be an app or something online, you know, that we could create for this. But yeah, so those would be the major negatives. All right, I'll move on. I basically want to talk to you about one way to establish credibility, and that's through storytelling. I was just reading the question here, okay? And I want to share with you, I want you to see the difference between 2 ways of speaking. This is part of my Speakology program. I was invited to speak in Johannesburg. The organizer, Debbie, opened up her $8 million home to experts to fly in around the world and speak on various subjects. And so I flew in to speak on Speakology. And she said to me, Oudi, I'm a little bit embarrassed because you're here to talk about the fact that everybody has a story and that storytelling is selling. But I don't have a story. And I said, well, that's just it, Debbie. You do, but you just don't know how to uncover it. It's in you. We just got to draw it out. So I want you to look at the 2 different ways that she was presenting. So initially, she would stand up and say, hey, welcome everybody. And I'm going to try to say it with the same tone so I don't influence one or the other. But she would say, hello everybody, welcome to my home. I'm so glad you made it here today. I just want to let you guys know that I opened up my house to fly in experts all around the world because I really believe that experts help you get to where you want to go faster. And so today we have someone speaking on this subject. Please help me welcome this person, and a clap, okay? So compare that with this. So that was the first story, which is talking about her house and why she opened it up. This is the stop sign story. The stop sign story is basically the reason she opened up her house to fly in experts was she was working at a bank, hated her job, was at a stop sign, and then was held at gunpoint. A guy basically stuck his gun out the window, said, open your door, and he wanted to rob her and take her car. Didn't realize there was a dog in the back seat. The dog attacked him. He didn't know who to shoot, the dog or her. Shot the door. It ricocheted off the door and shot her in the leg. And I know you might be thinking what I'm thinking. I was like, Debbie, how do you forget something like that? Like, you talk about not having a story. So she then went to the hospital, and while she was laying in the hospital, she realized that, you know what? I want to live my dream. Like, I want to do it now. What am I waiting for? I could have died right there, and my dream would have died with me. And that's when she opened her house. So imagine now she starts her presentation with that, you know, hello everybody, I want to welcome you here. You know, this year I was at a stop sign and this is what happened and my life changed. And that's why I decided to open my home up to people, to fly-in experts, to help your dream and my dream come true. So storytelling is I believe an underutilized weapon in the BNI world when it comes to establishing credibility with people, because it tells people why you do what you do. It helps them understand the person behind the business, and it's a beautiful way to increase your credibility score. In BNI, we talk about the 3+1 in terms of growing chapters around the world. But I think storytelling is an underutilized thing. It's a very powerful way in your 60 seconds, in your one-to-one, or your up to 60 seconds, in your one-to-ones, in your feature presentations. You want to drop in a story because that could be the game changer for you. Just want to end with this. Cindy, you may have already done this, but I just want to let, if there's anyone that, I wasn't sure if this would be opened up to people that are not in the BNI world. But yeah, if you want to go to BNI and find a chapter in your area, bni.com. Of course, Cindy, this is your website. And if you have any information or any questions or information you need from me, like we said, feel free to just email Cindy or myself. And I want to end with my favorite 2 words, and that's thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Oudi. I'm going to just wrap it up. All of the information, everything that he has given to us, everything that he's provided is, like I said, certainly applicable to us as business owners. And whether we're in BNI or not in BNI, take that information, the 4 C's of VCP, and apply it to everything you do to grow your business. So your thought for the week: we would rather align ourselves with an average performer we can trust over a top performer we cannot trust. Thank you very much for being on our call. A lot of information, a lot of thank yous coming through in the private chat. A lot of people have said yes on the 4 C's assessment and the questionnaire, and we will certainly get that back to you. Either one of us, just let us know that it's there. I did include the email on the chat box. For those that are on the call today, we will be carrying a theme forward for each month on a webinar call. We have guests from the US. We will have guest speakers from across Canada. And certainly if you have a topic that you feel would be something you'd like to roll out, just like Dr. Oudi did, please get in touch with me, and we will make that happen in 2019. Look forward to working with you some more, Dr. Oudi. This was great. Thank you.
Me too, and I just realized I had my camera off the entire time. So
well, that probably worked out well. That probably worked out for bandwidth. I've got a lot of thank yous coming in from people who don't have microphones or speakers on their computers. Everyone, lots of gratitude flowing your way. So thank you very much, everyone. And we will see you on... Yeah, BNI starts now. Exactly. It's Monday morning Ontario time. It's 9 a.m. And I'm going to rush off to our next conference call, get to Toronto for that. Thank you so much. Look forward to serving you.
Bye-bye.